next up, we have an awesome panel. Trevor's going to be staying on. We have Jonathan and Tom with us. The special thing about this panel, and I wish I had this kind of content when I was first started many years ago. And I think you guys also wish this too, right? Like stuff like this was not it was not we had to hack it together or to piecemeal together. So what I think this is such a big treat is because Trevor, Jonathan, and Tom, they're all serial entrepreneurs, and they've gone on to start their own VC funds, and they're the managing partners there. So they bring a very unique perspective of the intersection between entrepreneurship and early stage investment. And you'll find that pure fund managers, they're very afraid, and actually they stay out of the early stage investment because they don't know it. They don't know it. It's like quantum physics versus Newtonian physics. Normal funds, that's Newtonian physics. But when you collapse it down, right, when you get down to the beginning of a startup, that's quantum physics. And only people who live through it will know intuitively how to help founders. So today, this is a really special treat. We have, again, like the magic number is 3, right? So we have Trevor, Jonathan, and Tom coming from different types of industries of entrepreneurship, right? But now we have a shared vision, and we're all investing in Bitcoin-based startups, right? Amongst other things, but this is the commonality that brings us together. And another really common, denominator between our 3 panelists is that they've all been staunch supporters of the Startup Lab. So thank you so much, guys. And also, I hope you're happy that you see the fruits of your labor, because many of the companies that you coach through our program have gone on to get investment and get into the accelerator. So thank you so much for helping them. I think this time in the hackathon is going to be intellectually stimulating for a lot of people. The last 2 days, guys, I'm so excited about this. I know you know this, but I'm just saying for the audience, 2 days we had 22 speakers. Jesus, it's like so awesome. And on average, everyone gave about 3 wish list ideas. And these are just not like, ideas that they just came out from thin air. It's like they're building on the front line of the Bitcoin frontier, right? So if we imagine the frontier line as a circle, people are on different parts of that circle because they're working on different things on the Bitcoin frontier. They could tell us what works and what doesn't. And what doesn't are those wishes ideas. Because when we fix those things that don't work, our Bitcoin economy expands when we bring on more people, right? So 3 times 22, it's like roughly 60 ideas. We're gonna be putting those into our Discord. So you guys sign up, bitcoinolympics.devpost.com. Once you sign up, our team will reach out to you, go to Discord, pick one of those ideas, or if you have a brilliant idea that's you think you want to run with it, go run with it. Right. But we've taken the pain away. I mean, out of those 60 ideas, I think well over half are going to be unicorn company ideas. I'm not going to get into why I think that, but you can, this is being recorded. So, 2-3 years from now, you guys can see how correct that was. But I'm cheating a little bit because all the people that gave me those ideas, they're on the frontier. They're on the frontier. So I'm cheating a little bit. So with that said, how about we go around the room? Because I've been talking you guys up as serial entrepreneurs and prolific early stage investors, right? How about everyone take a little bit of time and allow, share your background, how you got to what you're doing today, and let our audience know about you guys. Let's start with Tom, Jonathan, and then we'll end with Trevor. How's that?
Sounds good. Yeah. Happy to go first, especially with this panel. How in depth do you want us to go, Albert? Do you want us to do just super high level, or we've got an hour or so?
Yeah, we got about
mid stage
80 minutes left. So I don't know, cool. A few minutes. Yeah,
all right.
I think it's important for everyone to sort of know that their time is being well spent here. And then so the things
I'll do a short one, but it's weird to say that and then go all the way back to 8th grade. But when I was in 8th grade growing up in southeastern Wisconsin, a suburb of Milwaukee, I broke my leg in a sledding accident. Now, I being the super intelligent kid, it was like, hey, we've got a cold day, which meant it was so cold outside that we couldn't go to school. We, of course, went sledding because that's what you do when you have a cold day. and I broke my femur. And we found out 4 or 5 years later, as I was about to head off to the East Coast for college, that they had clipped a blood vessel during the surgery to kind of fix that original break. And so I'd been kind of running around for all of high school on a collapsed hip. And the hip had collapsed, and then all of my cartilage had gone, and it was like just a bad news. But instead of doing a hip replacement at age 17, 18, 19, that's not a great idea. They did an experimental surgery that spent in aggregate the next 10 years, in aggregate 2 years bedridden, 4 years on crutches, and 10 total years kind of to regrow and rebuild everything in my hip. The point of it is that I got super bored because for me, college was always about not really the classroom studies, but more defining who you as an individual are, finding a like-minded group of people, and then building a cohort to go do interesting things. I couldn't really do that while stuck in bed in southeastern Wisconsin. So I turned to the internet, taught myself web design, web development, and I built a tool to put myself out online. And this was just kind of something I did while going to school for medicine and hard sciences, which is like what everybody in my family does. And then I somehow end up on this weird path of the tool I built for myself. I started using for my touring rock band. I was playing in a Southeast or like a Midwestern known band. And then my friends' bands started to use it. And they were bands that were not super well known, but they were bands like Fall Out Boy and Motion City Soundtrack and so forth. So as they grew, my business grew, turned into an actual startup. Next thing I'd known, this thing I built for myself was powering 70 to 80% of all major US market touring musicians. So it was effectively their digital operating system for literally everything they did online and a lot of what they did offline. Moved to Chicago, started building out that team as we really kind of took over the music space, started expanding out into the broader entertainment industry, started branding out into large brands and corporations. One of our partners, LA-based Fullscreen, which was at the time owned by a JV of AT&T and the Churning Group, a group called Otter Media, they made an offer we could not say no to. So their subsidiary, Fullscreen Media, made the acquisition, bought us, moved out to LA, ran the direct-to-consumer division there for a while. Came out, did a bunch of other things. All in though, as I was building StageBlock, which was all about centralizing and aggregating data and then finding interesting things to do with the data sets, I first heard about Bitcoin in late 2010. Could not understand it. It was a complete antithesis to what I was doing at StageBlock. So I dug in. I'm a builder, I'm a tinkerer. I just love getting my hands dirty with stuff. So I started mining Bitcoin late 2010. I started playing around with color coins. I was doing a whole bunch of different things in the space, got early into Ethereum, got early into EOS. Fairly embarrassed about that one these days, but I was in the LA scene, so that's what happens. So that's kind of the high level. Outside of all that, I've currently built like taken 4 different startups through acquisitions. I built a handful of other successful startups around that. Through Megatron Ventures, which started off as kind of a mini family office, but has really turned into a bit more of a product studio through which I also do some direct angel investing. I started building with a friend a company called Give Bitcoin that turned into Swan Bitcoin. I'm no longer really actively involved with Swan Bitcoin, but I am still a fairly significant equity holder of that. Currently, my main focus is kind of building a company called Project Admission, which is all in the ticketing space. We're working with the incumbents in the ticketing space to help kind of transform the industry, bring it into the new age from the inside out. With that, also building a kind of Web3 focused NFT-based ticketing platform called Osmo. That's more the consumer-focused version of the enterprise platform that is Project Admission. And then to help myself learn more about the space, with which I was building Osmo, with my now wife, we founded a company called, or not a company, a project called Stackulence, which I think was the 4th or 5th NFT project on Stacks. I forget at the time, but it originally just started kind of off as a fun project, and it was a lot more successful, and the art turned out so fantastic, and it's just been this really fun, whimsical thing that we've continued leaning in on it. And so that's kind of in addition to Project Admission, Osmo, all the angel investing and advising and supporting I do, Stackulence is the fun side project that we do just because it's so much fun.
Wow, thank you for that, sharing that background. I have so many questions. I think one of the questions the audience might have, in addition to many questions, is, you must have like one of the most cool venture fund names. called Megatron. Like how'd that come about?
Well,
Like we're talking about
in the
Transformers Megatron, right?
yeah, in the
All right.
music industry, I'd say the vast majority of everybody in the actual industry component knows me as Megatron, not as Tom. It's very similar to my co-founder of Project Ignition. He's known in the music industry. He got his nickname given to him by the Wu-Tang Clan. His nickname is Spidey. And the funny story is, both of us, like so many of our friends in the space, don't know our real names. They know us as Megatron and Spidey. But my nickname or moniker really came out of when I was building Project Emission. This was early 2000s. We really didn't have a lot of the kind of networking, distributed, capabilities that we do today. We didn't have Zoom. We didn't have any of these different things. So since our team was distributed back then, we would take action figures, take photos of those action figures, and then copy and like Photoshop them into these virtual environments. And that was how we as a team kind of had fun working distributed. And my action figure was Megatron. And so I've become known as that since about 2001, 2002.
Super. Thanks for that background. That's so interesting. I love the name. I grew up watching Transformers. Super awesome. And I think one of the things, just to summarize, I hope the audience sort of picked up that, Tom Megatron doesn't just invest in companies, but they also they have capabilities, they have experience to help you turn that product into something people want and go to market with it, right? And that is something that only serial entrepreneurs can offer when they become investors. So thank you so much, Tom, for that. We're going to come back to you.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you're up.
Thanks, Albert. Hey, everybody. All right, so I'm definitely not as cool as Tom, but this is it's a pleasure to be here and share my background and anything I can do to help the Bitcoin startup community. I'm a resource to you. So my background, yes, in startups. Also at the enterprise level and Fortune 500s, and as well as then a biology path as well. So I come with in grad school I studied molecular biology and was doing cancer research with yeast, which is a single cell fungus. And so I had to learn everything about fungi to do this research. So I ended up creating New York City's first urban mushroom farm called Burrow Mushrooms. I then scaled that business up over time. It was kind of a side project that turned into a little bit more over time as I tinkered with it. So that was when one kind of path of my career went down that way. And so I really bring a biological lens to investments, to business, to life in general. And so, I started getting interested in blockchain technology, decentralization, and believe that it will ultimately win because nature in biology is decentralized. And that's really the base layer system that we all kind of have to deal with in life. And so I just think from a computing standpoint, the more true we can be towards natural systems, living systems, that, I think that's why AI, right, is so powerful. It mimics a living system. And so it's a lens that we look at. My partner, Chris, who is also a biologically minded fellow. So I built that company, Burrow Mushrooms, up and sold it in 2020. We were selling mushrooms throughout the Northeast to grocery stores and stuff. It was a really fun project. But at the same time, I worked in the corporate side. So worked at Google Cloud in Google Cloud Platform on the business development and marketing and growth side, as well as the product workspace. Used to be called Google Apps for Work back then, and so worked with very small startups all the way up to enterprise companies, like Ford Motor Company or whoever. that are integrating these. And so really got to span the gambit of companies. That kind of once I left Google, I went to a venture-backed startup called Spacious. I was the first hire in CMO. And we took, that was in New York City, we took restaurants that were closed for breakfast and lunch and turned it into co-working space Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so that business, we sold that business in 2019 to WeWork. And so we really went from, 0 to 1 with that business, starting with one location and growing it and scaling it in New York City and then in San Francisco as well. Kind of during all of that, I had a consultancy business where I consult with Fortune 500s around media, technology, and a lot of that now is really focused on blockchain technology and how large corporations can start to adopt these technologies, NFTs, fungible tokens as well, into their core functionality of different products. And so I guess in about 2021, so after we sold Spacious and all of that, I started kind of doing more angel investing in my as my interest in investment started to grow and loving to work with startups. My partner Chris and I just started to form our fund, Gossamer Capital. And so we at the time we kind of chose a path that was a little bit different than a lot of other venture at the time, or at least Web3 venture. And so we really saw Bitcoin as the premier technology. We saw Bitcoin as not only the best money layer, but the best information layer for building secure applications and infrastructure. And so we also saw the business opportunity as being really one of the only venture capital firms to focus in this niche. And so we created a small proof of concept fund to invest in this thesis, and it has been performing incredibly well. And so we are, as regulation in the U.S. and some globally continues. Part of our thesis was that Bitcoin would be regulated less than other cryptocurrencies as well, and chains as well. And I think we're starting to see that play out. We were, I was lucky enough to meet Trevor and really get an eye on stacks and what smart contracts on top of Bitcoin were being developed. And so we continued to develop this thesis, invest in companies building early on in this ecosystem, and really bring our network of resources around enterprise clients, startup acumen and experience, and business development, go-to-market strategies that we can help our startups get from the very earliest stage to, when we're investing in pre-seed and seed, our goal is to really help companies kind of get ready for that Series A and that next kind of moment of kind of activation energy for the company.
Wow, super. Thank you for that very insightful background. And I think you're just as cool as Tom, because you sort of got me at the mushroom farm.
Thank you.
That's amazing, by the way.
I'm gonna make a forward thinking. This is not investment advice. This is just like another prediction. When the other type of mushrooms, a certain type of mushrooms, becomes legal. And I also heard that you're good at expanding retail stores. Yes, my experience. So like I'm sort of like seeing like a partnership going on here where we could potentially have like the biggest chain in the US or maybe in the world one day doing
let's do it.
A certain type of mushrooms.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're waiting for that the legislation to come down. And when it does, it's you know, remember I said this, you know, I've dibs on being your co-founder here.
All right.
We co-invest and do this. Thanks so much for that. And yeah, so I hope the audience is listening in here, because if you guys notice, Jonathan is coming from another career path, but again, the focused on investing in early stage, and they have the capability and the services to help you more than just an average investor, right? That has not been through the gauntlet as an entrepreneur. So this is a common theme, and we're not going to go into that right now because that's the rest of the program. Let's see what kind of insights they have for us on breaking down the process from taking an idea and turning it into an investment ready startup, right? And going beyond. So this is going to be really exciting. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say, because you guys have different experiences, right? But let's round this out with Trevor. Trevor, for the, you know, I know a lot of people already know you here on the show, but for those of you, for the people who are just joining us, can you go into share your background a little bit? Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, prior to Bitcoin Frontier Fund, we were Stacks Ventures. Prior to Stacks Ventures, I had been I still am a founder for more than a decade, wearing multiple hats, mainly CEO, but also CTO, full stack developer, marketing person, have to do everything, unfortunately. And, you know, I spent a decade on lean startup and go to market, founded a company called Lean Startup Machine, where we worked with Eric Ries to take like his lean startup model and turn it into a training program, and like literally tested the ideas in the real world. And, you know, I learned a lot about the early stages of startups from that. I advised a lot of companies over the years, did some angel investments, was an early advisor in the Stacks founders, helping them with their fundraising. Also love helping people with fundraising. Even though nobody likes to fundraise themselves, you know, but I love to help people with their pitch and fundraising strategy, and just giving them the tools to be successful. And I think eventually you do, like it's kind of like, if you the more you fundraise, even though it's like a masochistic endeavor, you do start to enjoy it. So yeah, so I think that's like kind of my background, is like go to market, fundraising, technology development, and I love being a founder, but I prefer to be an investor because it's easier, and I like sleep, and I like just shooting the shit, taking meetings rather than building. It's easy compared to being a founder, but sometimes I like both. You know what I'm saying? But definitely being a founder is harder, and it's a great I think the thing about being a VC too is that the competition is low. Like the four of us on this stage, like probably add more value than 90% of VCs out there, or 90% of investors, just because we've built stuff before. And that's why like being a CEO is the hardest job in the industry. Being a CTO is actually easier, because there's not enough people who have technical skills to be a CTO, so the competition is lower. And then being a VC who knows what it's like to be a founder, the bar is even lower, so and my whole, as you saw, my philosophy is finding an easy way to do something difficult. So that's how I ended up being a VC.
Super, thank you. I see the pattern emerging. I hope the audience sees a pattern too, right? All three, Trevor, Jonathan, and Tom, they're not only investors in the Bitcoin space, but they all can help entrepreneurs out because they've done it themselves. And I think this firsthand experience is the most important thing, right? Because in entrepreneurship, we have to take something from imagination and then turn it into a reality, right? And there's quite a bit of pain in that process, especially if we want to, as a startup founder, we're sort of implying that we're in it to win it, in the sense that we want to create a product that is so awesome that it's going to replace the best existing solution, right? And between that 0 and 1 process, it's an arduous road, right? But when you have great investors who have experienced the pain that you're about to experience, and have the empathy, it's night and day. It's complete night and day. So let's jump into it. Oh, for those of you, maybe I should do a quick intro to myself. I started as a software engineer in Silicon Valley, hit the dot-com crash. The startup that I was working for got their funding pulled and it was game over. I moved to Shanghai, China. I've been there for almost 21 years. I just recently moved back a few months ago, back to California, where I'm originally from. And yes, I'm very happy too. It's like super thrilled to be back. And in the 20 years I was in Shanghai, I ended up starting over 10 businesses and startups. And when I say startups and business, I make that distinction where the startup is something with potentially very high growth. You have to find investors. A business is something of a more proven business model, that offline, online, most of it ending in tiers. But to Trevor's point about good co-founders, I was lucky enough to find a couple of really strong founders, and a couple of them we made money on. But about 9 years ago, I found my life's calling, which is to help people turn their ideas into investment-ready startups. Because throughout my entrepreneur career, I saw more and more accelerators. I saw more and more XYZ funds, but no one was focusing on the idea stage, right? And I felt like it was just like, you know, if you're lucky or you're privileged to have those connections or be in the environment, then great job. You know, you have a very high chance of success. So I wanted to even the odds for the people that don't have that opportunity, but they have the will or the mindset to really want to create something awesome for society. And a few years into that, I met Trevor, and Trevor said, you know, you're doing this one-on-one consultancy that like takes so much time. Why don't you turn it into a cohort model, right? Luckily, I listened to him. And between then and about almost 2 years ago now, we became the longest running pre-accelerator in all of China at over 20 cohorts. So we've been doing this for a very, very long time. About around that time when we became #1 in China, Trevor's like, hey, you know, get into Bitcoin. We have an overflow at our accelerator. You need to help us out with all this overflow and start your pre-accelerator. And luckily I listened to him again. So I feel like Trevor is sort of like that angel, you know, like the person that is in many pivotal points in my entrepreneurial career. And between then and now, we became, you know, first with stacks, and now we're focused on Bitcoin. So any kind of awesome innovation that is going to move the Bitcoin frontier line forward, we're happy to support. And we're very uniquely positioned in the entire Web3 space because, again, there aren't that many pre-accelerators to go around with, and definitely not that many in the Web3 space. So again, we help you starting at the idea level, and this is a rare opportunity for everyone. I think all four of us wish that there's something like this when we first started, right? Right. So, and this hackathon is sort of like a mini version, right? It's like a mini 2-week version of what you can expect in a 3-month program, right? 3-month pre-accelerator program. If you graduate that, then you could go to Trevor's program and get investment from their fund, right? So that's another 3-month program. This is both of these programs are transformational, and we hope to give you a little taste of that at this hackathon, right? So let's start from the top, guys. Our contestants, we have almost 250 signed up on DevPost, and we have about 100 signups across other channels. So about 350 signups. There's a good I would say maybe 70-80 people will probably join the hackathon in the end, right? You know, we have to discount it a little bit, but for those teams who are in it to win it, right? You know, I want them to think beyond the hackathon, right? Meaning that, okay, if I build something now, how can I make the most use of because 2 weeks doesn't seem like a long time to the untrained mind, but because we've all been through a gauntlet, we know if we use 2 weeks wisely, it could become the beginning of a unicorn company, right? It could become the beginning of something very, very significant and useful for society, right? And if we're in the process, if we have good coaches around us, like our panelists here, Trevor, Tom, and Jonathan, then we could put a good business model around it, and it could also become very lucrative, right, for people involved. So let's before we get into converting the hackathon project into an investment ready project, you know, or after the hackathon, what would you recommend them to do? What would you recommend? Because they have to pick an idea, they have to form a team, and then they have a week to hack something together. What do you think would be like the beginnings of let's say, you know, some people mention product market fit, other people say it as 0 to 1, right? What would be like a success, right? Let's forget about prizes and the judging criteria, right? Let's, like, as an entrepreneur that going through, if you're, if you guys were in this hackathon, how would you use this, and it's about basically a week and a half now until they have to submit. How would you use this time to build the beginnings of a product that you could take beyond the hackathon? Can you guys share what you guys would do?
I'll jump in. So, I think first and foremost, you've got to be solving a problem that you are incredibly passionate about. And so, and rallying and building the team and the folks that also share that passion for that concept. So I think there's a lot of business opportunities and ideas that we can all spot, but as you, the founder, the builder, the person that's going to have to live this 24/7, 365, this has to be a problem that you truly are passionate about. So I would start in that first week just ensuring that you're starting in the right place, of not just, hey, this is a huge market and a huge opportunity, but this is a problem that I truly have for myself that I would love to solve for humanity, and start there. Yeah, so I'll pause there, but that's kind of the first thought that has, because in my own experience, I've had lots of startup ideas. I've started lots of projects that have not gotten off the ground. And when I look back and reflect, it's really because it was just, I wasn't passionate enough to stick through the challenges of early startup, because it didn't resonate with me as much.
No, I think that's great advice, especially now that after this panel, we're going to be putting up almost 60 awesome ideas from people who are on the front lines. Ideas that people wish, like these industry leaders wish they could build if they had more time before the next big one having. So of those guys, please take Jonathan's advice. Pick some that you feel really passionate about. Yeah. And
Yeah,
how about,
that's great advice. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to be spending your life is going to be consumed by this for at least the next couple to handful of years. So definitely pick something that you won't mind staying up until 2 on a Saturday night and then getting up at 6 on a Sunday, because you're just so excited about it. You want to work on it more than just 9 to 5. So I think that's great advice. For me, if I was kind of jumping into this, definitely that as the starting point, but then 2 weeks isn't a lot of time. So I would probably really focus on clearly defining what the exact problem I'm attacking is. Like, I know the cool idea I want to do, but exactly what is specifically the very problem here. And then leading that into what exactly is the target market, because that'll help define what product you're building. I would also then think through what the simplest solution, it's the whole, you build a skateboard first, then you build a bicycle, then you build a car, then you build a race car. So I would really think through what the simplest solution is, and then what are kind of the next stages that you could evolve into once you find success with that initial one. I personally call it the long con, because it's this multiple long staged phased approach to building something in the long run. And then because 2 weeks is not a lot of time, I would probably focus on leveraging as many of the emerging tools to accelerate my development, my entire process as possible. More specifically, I'd be leveraging OpenAI's ChatGPT, and I'd be leveraging GitHub Copilot X, which is based on ChatGPT anyways, but I would definitely be leveraging those as much as possible to get something that's reasonable, that can point to how I've defined what the problem is, what the target market is, how I'm attacking that, and then what the multiple phases towards building and evolving the business could be.
Well, that was super advice as well, because 2 weeks is not a lot of time. Guys, build a skateboard before you build a bicycle, and then the car, and then maybe a flying car in the future, right? But really, yeah, just in the 2 weeks, build a skateboard first, but don't build a skateboard just for anyone. Build a skateboard around a clearly defined user segment, right? Preferably a user base that you are either part of that user base, right? Or at least is somebody that close to you and you can access these people easily. That's very sound advice. That if you could do that and what Jonathan said, you're already well on your way to not just do this for the hackathon, but take it beyond. Now, Trevor, do you have any pointers on on this segment?
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I were to like, there's a lot of different things you could prioritize, right? If it were for me personally, like just getting started, the thing I would prioritize would be like finding the best team. Like, so finding the best people who are showing up to work with. Um, I think there's different things like passion is super important. Like both John and Tom said, like you have to be able like be excited to show up, be thinking about if it's not the thing you're thinking about in the shower when you wake up in the morning, then it's the wrong thing. But there's different ways to become passionate. I mean, you also should be solving a problem that you have yourself, but there's also ways to um like if you are not the customer for your own product, like I think you have a much higher likelihood of failing, but you can also become the customer for your product. In all my startups, like it's a deal breaker for me if my co-founders won't like become the customer of the product. And but I think like in terms of the hackathon, um, you can be passionate about an idea. You can be passionate about the things that you're already passionate about, and you can try to create an idea out of the things that you're passionate about. Or you can, try to find a good business idea and become passionate about that. But I think the best thing is like find those team members who complement you really well, and just like join them at any cost. Like if you have like a superstar team where it's not just about their actual skill set and they're being good at what they do, but they also need to be committed, they also need to be driven, they also need to be of the mindset to like basically their motivation is aligned with yours. Like if you have a founder who wants to create a $1 billion startup and you want to exit early, like that's probably going to create some challenges for you, right? If you want to create a $1 billion company and you have a co-founder who wants to exit early, that's also going to create issues for you. So it's like holistically looking at who that ideal person to start a team with is, and then really getting that team culture and chemistry off to the right foot, having a vision baby together, an idea baby together, and then going from there is like kind of where I would start. I think the idea that you do it in the hackathon honestly doesn't matter. Like, and no idea ever matters more so than the team and your process and your customer and timing. And so if I would just focus on these 2 weeks, I would just focus on finding a right business partner. And like you can also like until you actually work with somebody, until you go through adversity with somebody, you don't really know somebody. So ideally people that you've worked with already and been through that experience, or go through that experience as quickly as you can. Like see how someone acts under pressure and what their biases and challenges are, because even the most talented people in the world, in fact, some of the most talented people in the world have some of the craziest idiosyncrasies that you would never expect. And so you gotta be prepared for that.
Yeah, true that, true that. Every founder has a contrarian side to them, and I think it comes with the idiosyncrasies for sure. And just bring in what you talked about during your investment ready startups earlier. Guys, for the hackathon, call up the 5 people that you trust and respect the most in terms of their skills and complementary skill sets, and see if they want to join you for the hackathon, because the hackathon is a great way to test drive them, and then they're test driving you, right? As Trevor said, it's like you don't really know until you battle tested, or gone through like some real life simulations, like real life trying to build something together, shipping the product out in a short amount of time. That does create like a high pressure situation, and seeing if you can work with them in a short time frame, because a startup is like a series of quick sprints, right? Iterations. And so this is a great simulation with that. And yeah, if you can, and if you can't do that, then btcolympics.depos.com, go into Discord, put up a video on what you want to do, and people will come find you, right? If you don't have an idea, go find one of those videos. Right. So thank you for that, Trevor. I think this really rounds it up really well. But there is one thing that I want to go back to before we go on to the next set of questions. Is Tom, you mentioned ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. Now, how would you, in the context of the hackathon, can you give us like 1 or 2 examples of how you leverage it to increase the efficiency of or just become more competitive, be more more efficient with time?
Yeah. So with say just ChatGPT, one of my favorite things has been to just use it as a writing tool. So you can go into it and just dump without formatting, nothing, just dump a whole bunch of ideas. So you might have the problem that you've identified, and you might just start writing out as much information about the problem as possible. And you can ask the AI model to condense it for you, to simplify it, to help kind of sift through all this data that you presented and say, what do you see as the problem? Or maybe you're working on pitch decks. You can actually have it help write all the copy for that as well. You can go to Midjourney or any of the DALL-E or Stable Diffusion and have them help create the actual mock-ups or visual representations of things for you. If you actually get into the coding phase, then that's where Copilot, or if you can get access to a Copilot X, which is the upcoming one that looks amazing, by the way, you can have that thing actually be kind of a coding partner for you to help accelerate your development. Copilot X is the one that's going to have full access to your kind of entire database. So it'll be able to learn more than just what you are currently working on with it. I'll also be able to help with writing unit tests, automating the documentation, a whole bunch of different things. We've kind of recently added that. I've basically required every engineer that works with me on projects to start using it. And every single person has seen it increase their efficiency by a minimum of, say, 2 to 3x, some of them much more.
Oh,
So yeah, use it for every and anything. 3.5, so ChatGPT 3.5 is pretty good, but 4 is remarkably better. And 4 is what runs Copilot X. So if you can get access to that, like, start using it today, because as those tools start becoming more and more available, they're just supercharging every single thing you're doing.
wow, Microsoft is sexy again. Well,
Who
was
would have
it
thought
ever?
that?
I mean, like the first time,
It's-
actually, not again.
It's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no, thanks.
crazy.
That 2 to 3x OMG is like, that's
Yeah.
basically like 1 year becomes 2 to 3 years, or in the context of a hackathon, 2 weeks between becomes 6 weeks of time. Yeah, that's a massive advantage. I hope some of you guys, well, the thing with like having like a nuclear arsenal or having like a really good tool set, if one person uses it, I hope everyone else uses it. So we'll definitely drop some of those links into the hackathon tools and resources channel. Thanks for that, Tom. So now let's move forward, right? Because a hackathon is basically, I mean, it basically ends on 420. It was just by chance. It just it's ending on Earth Day.
Is that a joke, Albert? I don't understand. You'll have to clarify.
Yeah. It wasn't by design, it was just by coincidence. So, but after that's basically what 13 days from now, 12 days from now. And I know that there's a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs or even some serial entrepreneurs and some people who, and others are still working somewhere, but they do have that entrepreneurial bug and they want to, explore their idea in a environment that is free from their current work. So a lot of people are thinking, what if this project really goes somewhere, right? So let's not get this mixed up. So it's April 20th and they have a product. Let's say they're one of the winners. By the way, to the audience, we have over 50 prizes, right? So everybody on this panel has generously offered their time to speak with the winners, some of the winners, after the hackathon, right? For the purpose of turning your hackathon project into something more, right? Perhaps into a startup. And so again, for those of you just joining us, our panel of Tom, Jonathan, Trevor, they're serial entrepreneurs and they have their own early stage funds. So this is a very, very rare combination. Definitely, this is a very, very valuable opportunity to join the hackathon and try to win. So you could get one-on-one FaceTime. Like this is super valuable, right? And so let's say you guys, now there's a few winners, right? And you guys are doing a one-on-ones. Like what's some of the advice you'd give them, or how would you help them plan out, or what are the next steps? Right now you have a project, looks like, oh, okay, it's a good starting point. Now between that hackathon project and an investment ready startup, right? Now, when I say investment ready startup is ready to, let's say, go to Trevor's program, you learn how to pitch, you learn how to fundraise, you start growing your product, right? So you could get more funding, so you could really grow it and more people could use your awesome product. Between the hackathon point and then that point, what does that roadmap look like? And maybe you guys could just share your experience from your personal experience and from your investments, and then and then after that, let's try to find out. Let's see if there are any overlapping points, right? The overlapping point, guys, by the way, is the science of the startup, meaning that you can have 1,000 startups, but all 1,000 startups, they have this common denominator or denominators, right? So go ahead and just speak freely. By the way, we didn't choreograph this or anything, like we didn't prepare ahead of time. This is like completely from all the panelists' memories and from their honest experience. So let's why don't we go in reverse order this time? Let's go Trevor first, and then Jonathan and Tom. How's that? All right, great. Trevor, whoops, you're
I
on mute.
thought I was going last again.
Oh, you go
So
first.
I mean, there can be a scenario where a hackathon project is an investment ready startup. It depends on the investor. For us at Bitcoin Frontier Fund, it's really about the team, and also, did you ship something? Like, do you have users? It's amazing how like the actual critical point of like the majority of success in entrepreneurship is like preparation. You know what I mean? It's like you go through the trough of sorrow, you go through the darkness for years, and then like overnight something clicks and things fall into place and growth can happen really fast, right? And so in a hackathon, of course, you can get lucky, right? You can find the right team. Of course, I would say we'd probably unless you have been a team that was working together for a while before, like let's say, the scenario where a investment ready startup could match a hackathon project would be, we have 3 people who had worked together successfully before, but maybe they're going and doing different things. They come together for the hackathon. They have an idea. They build something and ship it, and then it gets a lot of excitement and users. It solves the problem in the market, and it takes on a life of its own. And they decide, hey, we're going to quit whatever else we're doing. We're going to come together as a team. We've worked together before. We've had success before, and we're going to do this. That would be probably an investment ready startup for us. Now, if it was like 3 team members who never worked together before, but they have a great team, and the same thing happens, then we would want to see like, hey, why don't you guys like work together for 3 to 4 months? Like, let's see how like the teamwork is going after 3 to 4 months. I think that's like probably the minimum that we would accept. And that's like, we're very risk on. We're like very risk on. So, other people might want to see a team work together for a year or 6 months. And then there's different thresholds for how much traction that you need. Some people are going to want to see 3 months of data on like user engagement or growth. But I think like that's a scenario where it could match. Most likely though, a hackathon project is like, I've almost never seen a hackathon project that's investment ready, because a lot of the hackathon projects are just kind of like cool tech ideas. Like there's no business model, there's no there's no even user in mind, there's no problem that's even being solved, which is fine in the form of a hackathon. That's kind of why we created the Lean Startup Machine program, because I ran some of the biggest hackathons actually, like in New York City when I was in undergrad, like 14 years ago, 13 years ago. And so the ideas from hackathons that come out of them are usually like cool prototypes, like showcase of technology, but they need like to solve a problem, to be a product, to have an end user, to have a market, to have some theoretical way of making money, and just have people who want to use it, and then have a team behind it, and then you're off to the races.
Super. Thank you, Trevor. That's Jonathan, from your perspective, so again, to reframe this, or to get back to the question, it's end of the hackathon, right? How they take that project and turn it into an investment ready startup?
Yeah,
What do those like? What those elements look like?
yeah. So the process for me is and then I'll kind of talk about the process and then kind of how I kind of start to evaluate when a company is kind of ready for investment. And so I think Trevor hit on the process really, really well. I love to see, I'm a a very structured person, so I like to see a structured process and approach to getting kind of investment ready. So as Trevor said, really starting with the team. This is obviously assuming that you're attacking a venture size market, and all of that. So there's certainly times where we've encountered like great ideas, great projects, and it's just like this market's just not big enough. So we're assuming that you're already you know you have convinced yourself that you are going to build $1 billion company in a huge market. That has to be that box has to be checked for venture investment. But building that team, so I really look at kind of team plus solution. And so team, building out all the capabilities that you're really going to need. So the technical team to deliver the design, product, kind of customer insight group, growth group, CEO who can kind of manage, build the vision and kind of wrangle the core team. So really checking that box around the team that you're going to build, and then the solution. And so the solution really sits within the market. So you have a good view of the market. You're talking to customers. You have proven that you've spoken to customers. You really have looked at the market, the competitive set. You've illuminated that for other decision makers like investors that can help get up to speed with you, because a lot of times we're not up to speed with you. We don't know your market as well. We don't know your solution as well. So for bringing that in so we can get up to speed with you is critical. Just assume that we don't know it because a lot of us we might not know that niche or that technical solution. So you've got your you've a good understanding of your market, and then obviously your product, and you really need to show that you not just have you've started to build something, you kind of got an MVP that you're kind of working with, but you've got a plan to iterate on that project and showing and proving that you're really kind of a culture of iteration, right? That's something that in venture and in startups, venture, we'd love to see it. Startups, you kind of have to have it, and you just have to have that culture of iteration. That can be from a product standpoint. That can be talking to customers, marketing tactics that you're deploying. You just continually iterating until you can kind of really the business kind of matures. So showing that is part of your culture is a great signal for investors to that we can say, hey, this team is taking the process seriously and rigorously, and we feel more comfortable allocating capital in that environment.
Super. Thanks for that follow-up. So there's some overlap there and some value plus there. Tom, it's okay if you guys repeat some of the same stuff. I think it's probably worth it, but only if it really repeats stuff, right? Yeah.
I don't know how much I'll repeat because I think I heard the question you asked was, how would you lean in and help the teams after the hackathon that you worked with? So I'm going to take that kind of approach, which is just high level. First off, I always focus on helping things with product stuff. So I've worn multiple different hats. I can help with multiple different things, but my super focused charged area is product strategy, product design. But before you get to that, because I've been through the ringer a bunch of different times, I used to always kind of laugh at some of these things like, oh, you can create a mission and vision statement. I don't need to do that. That's how I used to think. And now that I've done this a bunch of times, I kind of clearly recognize the necessity, if not value, that going through such exercises brings. So what I would probably really focus on having teams do after they go through the hackathon, especially if I was kind of leaning in with them, or even not, just this is the type of thing I would do, is I would really focus on locking in what your problem and solution is. Like, yes, that's what you should have spent the 2 weeks doing, but spend more time than that, really making sure you know exactly what your problem is and what the solution is going to be. And then it's most important that you don't just know it, but you need to be able to talk about it. You need to be able to present or teach or explain it clearly to other people, and how they could get there, and how you will ultimately get to kind of your long end at North Star. So that's kind of your mission and vision statements, defining what you want to be in 5-10 years. And how are you going to get there? What is the process by which? So defining an initial starting point, your problem, your target market, what you think your initial solution is going to be, but then where are you going to go in 5-10 years? That helps define what your kind of broad market opportunity is, to go back to what, say, Jonathan was talking about. But like, I would just focus first on, can you even communicate clearly what that is? And that's probably the first thing I would focus on, going through all of those exercises, very specifically defining a mission and vision statement. And it sounds corny, especially to those of us who have done this, but I find that if I don't go through that exercise in a very formal fashion and actually write it out, I usually wish I had. So from there, then I would probably focus on getting something non-scalable to a stage that you can actually get into the hands of users and start collecting feedback. So again, I am repeating a little bit of what people were saying, but slightly different terminology. Again, though, for me, it's all about product. So if I'm taking the tact or wearing the hat of, am I going to do an investment, not just kind of provide advice and friendly help? It's all about the product for me. I need to be able to have something tangible that I can see and play with, get my hands dirty with. I know that that's not really something probably to focus on for a 2-week hackathon. It's great if you can, especially leveraging these AI tools to help accelerate that process, but that's not necessary for that 2-week process. If you're getting to the stage where you're going to start raising money from more than just, small checks of friends and family, I personally need to be able to see it, play with it, actually get a feel for, are you going to be able to create something that your market is actually going to find viable and use, not just a good problem that you think you're going to be able to solve.
Thank you for that, Tom. I think that's it also helps underscore why our judging criteria, you like some of those judges. I'm not gonna let like the entire cat out of the bag, but just to resonate with what Tom said, you guys get bonus points for getting your product into the user's hands and showing proof that people use the product you hacked together. You also get bonus points for having a clearly presented pitch, right? Clearly communicating what problem you're solving. And I think a lot of first-time entrepreneurs underestimate like how much hinges on the exact problem, because actually the user problem is even the vision statement comes out of it, right? We don't really have a vision unless like we're solving a problem. And to Tom's point about really focusing on a product that is not scalable. Yeah, the hackathon is just 2 weeks. You're not going to build something that scales, but if you could build something that you can put into the user's hands, and then you can start developing a culture of iteration, as what Jonathan was talking about, right? And so, this is just gold. If you're a first-time founder, or even if you want to refresh your course, I would watch the last 20 minutes a few times, because if you can even internalize 80% of that, then you've already de-risked your project by a lot. And you probably like already shaved off, if not years, then at least months of pain, many months of pain. Yeah.
A lot of gray hair.
Yeah. I mean, I think the three of us could all attest to just having to learn that process on our own, or not having the environment before. And it's just countless months, if not combined, it's probably years of time invested into learning that. And so this is really supercharging it. The hackathon is going to give you guys like a small taste of that like it's a microcosm of the bigger picture, right? 2 weeks is, in my experience, it is enough to go through one iteration. If you're really fast, you could go through a couple, right? So again, this is just pure gold. How about this? We have about half an hour left. Trevor and I have been going for about 2 hours straight. How would we take like a quick 3-minute break and we'll come back? And then after this, I think this is probably like the gem of today's, when we come back to the gem of today's conversation. So, the world, the universe, there's one constant in the universe and it's always changing. So I like to stay current, right? So talking about staying current, I like to hear, maybe you guys could share with the crowd, with the audience, after we come back from this 3-minute break, the most recent investments you guys invested in and why, right? What was that special thing about, not just from the business side, not just from the project side, but what was that thing that sort of made you like, aha, I need to invest, because you guys are all early stage investors. This is very rare to begin with, right? What was that like thing that made it something click in your mind? Like, I want to invest in this guy and their team. What was that thing, right? So let's have 3 minutes to think about it, and we'll be back in 3 minutes. Let me thanks guys. I want to put this some music on here to entertain the crowd while you guys think about this. Let's see. Wow. Let me. Okay, and we are back. We are back. All right.
That was the perfect break. I got
That-
to
that-
get a drink. I got to, have a snack.
awesome.
Energized. Oh,
Energized.
we just hit 1 million ordinals, guys. We just hit 1 million ordinals.
Woo!
Millionth inscription was the word piggy. People are going wild.
No, no. Why does it have to be these things?
But
Cool.
I think after this conversation, we'll go into Twitter space, talk about 1 million ordinals. We should all join there and continue the convo.
Yeah, no, you definitely been like an industry leader and pioneer there. Thanks for putting together Ordinal show, Trevor. It's every time I go, I always learn something new. And it's fascinating. We do marketing on multiple channels, and when Ordinals first came out, was it end of January? For 2 months, LinkedIn, you cannot do hashtag Ordinals. Like about a week and a half ago, finally you could do hashtag Ordinals on LinkedIn. So it's just like that shows how far ahead of the market, people who are following us are, right? So this is just incredible. All right, so we have about 22 minutes here. So how about we just chop it up into 7-minute a piece, and then give me 1 minute to wrap up. So again, just to recalibrate, to the audience, we're discussing, right, between Tom, Trevor, and Jonathan, the most recent deals that they invested in, like let's say the last 12 months or 6 months. And what was that spark? What was the deciding factor for you guys to invest in these founders, right? So we're not really talking about we talk about the business, the product side of it, but now like this is more like a personal level, right? What made it click for you guys? Can you share like some of the highlights? Is there like a common denominator there that sort of like some universal advice that you can, or patterns that you guys saw in successful founders, right? And their personality, or maybe their habits or things they do. How about we go Jonathan first, and then Tom, and then Trevor? How about that? Jonathan.
Great.
Cut off this time?
Yeah, sounds great. So some of our most recent investments, one I'll highlight is Alex. So automated liquidity exchange. So it's actually our second investment in them. So we followed on with them recently in a strategic round that they had led by Trust Machines. So Alex, aside from being an incredible technology, it's an incredible team, right? And so they have incredible leadership, incredible vision. They've built a track record of delivering for their product, which really truly stands out in the industry across all of Web3. The team that they have behind them has so much experience in traditional finance that they can bring into decentralized finance. They're really just a rock star team. And so that's one of the reasons that makes investing in a company like that really easy. But additionally, they have such an opportunity in front of them, and unlocking Bitcoin's $500 billion market cap that we all love to kind of point to as this great DeFi opportunity. And so Alex would be one, and again, it's really about team plus solution. They're just delivering on their product, and that constant iteration, setting measurable goals and then exceeding them, and being kind of agile and doing these sprints, and providing these great updates for investors and keeping us abreast of the process and the progress, just helps us builds confidence for us in that process. Another one would be Element 8. So E8, they are a fixed wireless company that kind of one lens looks like a private equity roll-up of fixed wireless networks in the United States, but a technological vision of bringing Web3 internet services in the way that kind of Helium has done. And so I thought, again, team plus solution, just an incredible team that has worked together, are rigorous in their approach, and they have a vision for a taking kind of a traditional, fixed wireless solution, and then layering on Web3 solutions into this kind of new total package. And so that's something that you don't see a lot in kind of startups, where you have this like core business that they can bring in terms of like just cash flow customers in like the internet service provider space, and then the ability to springboard on that. So it feels like more of a mature company than you would think. And they've just raised $200 million from Digital Alpha, and a huge round to scale up their business. And so that's an incredible opportunity for them, and for those lucky of us to invest with them. Some other companies are some of the favorites in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Xverse wallet. Talk about a company that just absolutely is executing on all cylinders, building an incredible product. Gamma would be another one. We followed on again with Gamma as our second investment with them in the marketplace that they're building. It's such an exciting time with ordinals and stamps, and as well as Stacks NFTs. And so, we love these companies for the teams that they're building, the solutions that they've created, but it's also the solutions that can be built onto the solutions that they have. So, for Gamma and Xverse, as the Web3 environment, and same with Alex, right? And E8, as the Web3 market matures, they're going to be able to build new customer experiences on top of the platforms that they've built today. So on Gamma and NFTs, like we're in Xverse, and storing and managing your personal NFTs, we fully believe that NFTs are going to take a more corporate form. We're going to be able to have NFTs being our medical data that we can store, and the deeds for our homes, et cetera, and all that stuff. And so we see an investment today in a company like Gamma for what they can be tomorrow as NFTs and technologies mature. Same with Xverse, and being able to store and manage that, be that point of management and connection to your Web3 environment. Similarly with Alex and the higher finance vision that they have for DeFi, and the ability to help mature that industry. So I'll pause there, and hopefully that kind of gives a little bit, but it's team plus solution for us.
Super. Thank you for those examples and the granularity there. Thank you, Jonathan. Next up is Tom. Oops. Is the video frozen here? Maybe Trevor, you can oh wait, you're back. You're back.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been living as a digital nomad for the past near year, and I'm currently on the coast of Oregon, and it is gorgeous and lovely, but not the greatest internet. So apologies there.
That's a good.
It was actually my first experience using Starlink was at another place here, and I was very impressed. But yeah, let me know if it goes wonky. Apologies in advance. So the Gamma team is great. So Jonathan, I'm a little jealous that you made that investment. I was actually hanging out with Jamil a little bit ago, and I was yeah, let's just say I'm a little jealous that I didn't have the opportunity to get in there before it closed. Though I think that that's not something. Never mind. We're not probably supposed to mention that. But I have a little bit different of an approach to investments because Megatron Ventures really started off as much more like a mini family office. So kind of just me picking things that I thought a non No specific strategy. Typically very product focused, typically very, is this an area in our industry, a market that I can give help to? But one of the very first investments that I made there, or first key investments that I made, was in a company called FRST, and they actually closed. They closed down during, I think it was like 4 or 6 months into the pandemic. So the team was in, was a bull or a bear market, I think, for the broader industry, and the team had been personally hit by some issues, so they shut it down. But it was a project that I was very excited about, and I still am, and I still got more value out of it than the money I put in, because the entire focus that they did was analyzing data throughout the broader nodes in the broader ecosystem space. Blockchain ecosystem space. And by being able to find insights into every single thing that was going on, that gave kind of a lot of really interesting insights into other opportunities. So we were able to, for example, track, and this was a few years ago, well before the pandemic, we were tracking all the transactions that individual wallets were making, and then matching those wallets to individual people to figure out what was going on with them. So, for example, we identified the wallet of a guy by the name of Li Kexing, who's one of the largest real estate owners, and he owned the office building that I think it was. I forget which exchange was in their office, but he started moving around stuff, getting early access to tokens and things. And so first was one of the first ones. It was just, I knew the team, there were wonderful people, market opportunity was huge. I knew that the data focus was something that I personally just found very interesting. And so, yeah, there was that one. And even though it closed, the team handled closing it down extremely well. So great team, and I still got real value out of it. More recently, I actually haven't been doing a lot of formal investments over the past like 2 years into individual startups. Instead, I've kind of more informally been, say, investing pretty heavily into the Stacks ecosystem. The more I lean in, the more I dig into Stacks broadly, the more excited and fascinated I am and bullish on everybody involved, the entire ecosystem, the project opportunity, everything that's going on there. It's a slightly selfish thing, because I want anything that's going to help Bitcoin increase in value is going to personally benefit me. So I want it to. And so if I can invest into Stacks and the broader ecosystem, as the rising tide lifts all boats and helps Bitcoin increase as a whole, that is a slightly selfish investment, but I'm definitely doing that. So I've also put a bunch into Alex, just again, informally, not as a formal investor. I hold a bunch of, say, Doodles, Moonbirds, so projects like that, with specifically within Stacks ecosystem, got pretty early into Megapont, did a bunch there. Project Indigo has been one of my more fascinating focuses lately. I really love what they're building out. From a pure art perspective, huge fan of Boozy, so Hooch House, Creature Feature, everything he's doing with, say, counterfeit culture and so forth. More specifically, over the past 2 years, kind of on the more formal side, I've actually been reinvesting into my own projects. So some of them started off as pure investments. So I was pretty informally involved with Project Emission when it first started. That's a ticketing startup. But loved the team, so invested in the team, loved the market opportunity, invested in that. I then increasingly became involved, eventually took on a co-founder and CPO and CSO role. So that's kind of a typical trajectory of me, is doing an initial investment or just helping from a product design strategy perspective, and then becoming more and more and more involved, both in the sense of providing money and just sweat equity. Through Project Mission, I kickstarted everything Awesemo. So poured actual like formal startup investment into that, and then all of my time. Also Stackulence, we've just been I've poured a bunch of money into like building out what we're doing there, which is a lot of fun. But I think kind of more specific to probably what you're trying to get at is, what would I invest in today? And I probably will start doing more personal individual investments sometime shortly. I'm ending my digital nomad tour, so I'm going to have a little bit. I won't be kind of burning equity or burning cash, just staying in Airbnbs and exploring the coast. And all of my startups are kind of getting to stable phases where they're throwing off cash now or having liquidity events. And I've got a couple of other fairly significant liquidity events coming up soon, including one of the projects that I'm involved with, which will likely IPO in the next year. But when I start doing that, and I am actively looking at opportunities right now, but I'm really, really, really interested in self-custody Bitcoin projects, especially those that help the massive amounts of Bitcoin that's just basically sitting there doing nothing, put it to work. So whether that's interest earning, whether that's DLC based, strategies, whatever it is, that's the type of focus I'm personally very interested in, both from a putting money in and putting my own time and effort into, trying to build the simplest product and project as possible, both to kind of help, existing Bitcoiners who hold capital, put it to work, and onboard newcomers who don't really know anything about the space to acquire Bitcoin and then put it to work as well.
Albert, we can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Tom. Really excited to hear that, and congratulations on all of the companies going cash flow positive, and we're looking forward to that big IPO party. And what excites me most is that, yeah,
I'm not holding my breath that it'll IPO, but it's on the right path.
It's on the right path, and I mean, it's about to come out of this bear market. I mean, I'm optimistic, so it'll be a good time very soon. But what excites me most is that you're talking about these self-custodial Bitcoin projects. So I think you're gonna be really pleased with the next cohort when we announce it. There's gonna be that generally is a theme for the next cohort. Thank you for that, Tom. Let's round it up with Trevor. Last but not least, Trevor.
Yeah,
we
so
have 5 minutes left, so
I'll be quick. I mean, my goal is to invest as many companies as possible. Like literally, the biggest limitation is that like there aren't enough companies who will do the basics. You know what I'm saying? I'm literally trying to make, my goal is to be, well, we're making like 20 to 40 investments per year, but my goal is to make as many checks as possible. Like my goal is to be the easiest person to be able to invest in your company as possible. I have a couple of slides, and part of the way I do that is by like trying to let people know exactly what our criteria is so they can meet it, but also trying to create criteria that anyone can achieve, though of course only the smartest teams will probably achieve it. But I'll give a quick couple slides like to show how basic it is, because there's kind of 3 main things. I mean, we have a very specific internal criteria of 5 criteria that we have a 1 to 5 score on, and we rate it. And then of course this is an art, not a science, but we try to make it as much of science as we can. But for me, it really comes down to having a team that's complete with 3 times co-founders, being laser focused with very few things on your plate, not having multiple businesses going on, being committed full time, choosing a path with low market risk as possible, or a well-defined short cycle needed to test it, having a market concept that's aligned for fundraising. So, I mean, you could have an idea where the market risk is low, but maybe just there's not a market for it from a capital perspective. You need to have a market in terms of a user base and a market in terms of a capital base. And sometimes if you have a large enough market in terms of a user base, that can move the market for the capital base, but there's no guarantee. So, you need to have both. And then a team that's shown execution, like being live on testnet, doing things right, tapping mentors in the ecosystem. We talk to a lot of people to figure out, to ask their opinions on teams, seeing that you are not rushing something mission critical. Like if you rush putting out a token and it's super half baked, it's just such a deal breaker, right? So this is literally our at least on 3 metrics, our 1 to 5 scale. So it's we're looking for a 4 to a 5 for a team. How focused are you? Multiple businesses, a score of a 1, right? Multiple businesses is you're running an events business and you're running a technology business and you're running a media company. It's having multiple products, that could be like, Google, if you think of like Google Drive, just storage is one product. Having Google presentations is another product. Having Google spreadsheet is another product. Like that would be a two, that would be better than a one, but I mean, they're still kind of deal breakers, right? Having a suite of tool features, three, you're kind of in the middle here where you feel like, hey, you have like a bunch of different features, a few features. Really, we're looking for the snipers. We're looking for one killer feature, limited scope. This is the core feature of the product, and it's a feature where you can improve it 10x, and by being 10x compared to all the competition, you can win that use case, right? So we're looking for a limited scope, like limit the scope as much as possible. One shot, one kill, take the shot and win, and how fast are you executing? Okay, so like if you're not live, it's like, well, if you have one feature, right, like it should be very easy for you to get live, right? So these kind of feed into each other, but like you're not live, not on testnet, not nothing. Come on, like you're not executing, right? Your product is 80% complete. Okay, a little better. Product is live. That's great. Like that's what we expect. That's the table stakes. Product being live with users. And then like if your product is live with users and it's good, you know what I mean? Like we go in there and it's solid. It's like I as a user want to use this or it solves a problem for me. Now we're off to the races. You're hitting 5. And finally, how complete is your team? You have 1 to 2 co-founders, but maybe you just have one all-star versus you have 2 to 3 co-founders and only one all-star. Again, 2 all-stars. Okay, we're getting better here. This is like the table stakes. And then, you have 3 all-star co-founders. All right, let's go. Like this is let's compete in the Olympia, and then of course 3 all-star co-founders with the right roles. Now, you don't want to mess with that guy there. You don't want to mess with that guy. You're happy to mess with this guy, the scrawny one or the out of shape one, but you don't want to even see that guy. You're going to run away from him, right? So that's this is how we evaluate our criteria. So how complete is your team? How fast are you executing? And really how focused you are. There's some other things about like how obvious is the idea in the market, like how logical is that there's market demand for it. How like what you as a CEO, like how good of a match are you for the fundraising process? Are you a founder who has raised money before? Or are you a founder that we think will be a natural at fundraising? You have that impression where it's like, you can it's like if you're the significant other that does well meeting the parents. You know what I mean? That's like the founder who's good at fundraising. So yeah, that's our criteria. It's really not hard, I think, if you plan ahead and do it. Our goal is
It's
to
really not hard.
write as many checks as possible. Like let's go. Like just follow the steps. Like what are you waiting for?
I always say that it's much easier once you have the framework, right? But it's still be prepared, guys. That I mean, I think I do have some friends who are like like they're just naturals. Like in the first or second try, they just hit it out of the park. For me, I feel like a lot of these skills I had to learn the hard way. Like I was socialized in school like with the wrong habits. Got excellent grades, got top grades, but that has little to do with entrepreneurship, and I had to relearn everything. But it's definitely easier. Like back then, we had to piece together like the science, right? But now we have the science right in front of you. Trevor, Tom, Jonathan just shared with you the patterns that they saw in successful entrepreneurship. So hopefully that helps accelerate everyone's progress, save some time, so you can do what you want to do early on in life. And we hope that this hackathon is going to help you guys do that. It's really in a class in itself. I mean, just in 2 days, we had 22 talks. We're going to have roughly the same number of talks on Monday and Tuesday, but on the technical side, right? It's designed to be half business, half technical, or actually 1/3 business, 1/3 technical, and then 1/3 mixing together in our Discord, right? Mixing together, forming the teams, right? So those 3 things combined, you have the golden triangle to have a foundation to springboard your startup. So we really hope that in the future, our hackathon sets a new bar, right? But before I make a shout out to the hackathon, how do the audience reach you guys? I'm sure like you guys sparked a lot of questions, right? Answered a lot of questions, but I'm sure there's a lot more questions now. As learning goes, right? The more we learn, the more we realize we do not know. So how do people reach out to you guys?
Best way for me is Twitter. That's usually the place I'm most active. So my Twitter handle is just my full name. So Tom Giles, TOMGILES.
Thank you. So that's
Same.
again, Twitter at TOMGILES. And Jonathan?
Same. Twitter is good. I'm at J Sadlow, and I'm reasonably active on there. So give me a shout, and I'll do my best to respond.
Super. So is that Twitter at JSADLOWE? Okay, excellent. All right, and then Trevor.
At TO, hit me up. Get at me anywhere.
Jeez, like you have such an awesome Twitter. Like, how did you get that? How did you get like a 2-letter Twitter handle like at TO? Are you serious?
If you win the hackathon, I'll tell you.
Awesome. All right. And he's not just going to tell you, he's also going to give you a one-on-one session too. So all of our panelists up here have generously offered 2 one-on-one sessions, but you know, your project has to be good, right? It has to be something that could potentially evolve beyond the hackathon. So with that said, everyone listening, if you haven't joined already, btcolympics.devpost.com. And once you join, we'll reach out to you. We'll invite you to the Discord where we can meet other like-minded people who want to help also build something awesome and push for the Bitcoin frontier so we could create the sustainable Bitcoin economy together. Thank you so much, Trevor, Jonathan, and Tom for joining us. And this is, again, a pleasure. And again, thank you for all your staunch support in our Startup Lab students. You know, as you know, a lot of them came in with just an idea. Right. And then they found their co-founders there, or they beefed up their teams there. They found more co-founders through the process. And many of them that you coached and mentored, now they have gone on to get investment and they've gotten into the accelerator. So thank you again for all your support, guys. Looking forward to the hackathon. Pop into the Discord whenever you guys have time. We'd love to have you there. And I'm expecting to be able to show some awesome projects to you in about a week and a half. Thank you, guys. Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Albert. Bye.
Thanks, Albert. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.